The government will sell 8 plots of residential land in the next financial year, supplying over 5,000 units. Financial Secretary Paul Chan explains the measures announced in the budget. Showdown looming between striking South Korean doctors and the Seoul government. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The government will sell 11 plots of land under the land sale program in the coming financial year. 8 of them are residential sites that are expected to provide about 5,600 units. Mimo Singhai reports.
The Development Bureau announced the land sale program for the next financial year. Among the 8 residential sites included in the program, only 2 land sites are new, which are both in Sha Tin. The aggregate area of the 2 sites is 8,000 square meters, while the Yunsheng Circuit site in Sha Tin will only provide 280 units in the first phase. Authorities said small projects still have attractions. The rest of the land plots are rolled over sites from the land sale program for the current financial year, such as Cape Road in Stanley and Castle Peak Road in Two Moon. The land sale program also covers 2 commercial sites and 1 industrial site. While 6 plots of land failed to secure suitable bids last year, the government believes the scrapping of property cooling measures will improve the situation.
The removal of the various special stamp duties should have an enlivening effect on the market. A basket of factors will be at force because it also depends on the developer's strategy and its interest in the individual sites, whether it is interested in the particular sites that we are going to roll out and its own financial position.
News 9, TVB News.
The removal of all cooling measures for the property market was one of the highlights of the budget announced yesterday. Financial Secretary Paul Chan today said the city's property supply is sufficient. Mimo Singhai reports again.
In his budget address delivered on Wednesday, Financial Secretary Paul Chan announced the removal of all spicy measures on property buying. This means the scrapping of special stamp duty, buyer's stamp duty, and new residential stamp duty. Chan said the measures are no longer needed based on the current economic and market situations. Many residents raised their concerns to the Financial Secretary over the issue at a radio program today. While some said the government has made the right move, others questioned the effectiveness of the measures. One caller said the policy only helps people with property, but home buyers and the middle class do not benefit. The financial chief said individuals do not need to become more pessimistic in relation to the market's reaction after the removal of the spicy measures. Lawmakers also questioned certain aspects of the budget in a legislative council meeting, such as the cost of monthly fireworks and drone displays, as well as the tobacco tax.
Now, how can you ensure that visitors will continue to come back for our pyrotechnic shows? And you are basically burning money, so how would you control the expenditure on fireworks? These are just 2 components of the entire package to attract visitors. The Hong Kong Tourism Board is conducting a study on how we can make our tourism sector more vibrant, to offer more choices for foreign and local visitors.
Under the new tobacco tax, each packet of cigarette is now about $16 more expensive than before. Promotions on Facebook appeared immediately after the announcement of the new tax, saying cheap cigarettes are available.
There are so many illicit cigarettes being sold in the market, so can't you do undercover operations? Or you should require the enforcement agencies to submit regular web report to see what they are doing actually to crack down on the sale of illicit cigarettes.
Financial chief said authorities will ask the Customs and Excise Department to strengthen enforcement. Chan added the prices for tobacco will be adjusted again in future. News 9, TVB News.
14 people were found guilty of perverting the course of justice and rioting after being involved in a protest at Hong Kong Polytechnic University in 2019. All defendants are on remand. The 14 defendants, aged between 17 and 41, were found guilty of perverting the course of justice. 9 of them were also convicted of rioting. During the Polytechnic University protest, some left the campus for fast roping. Police later intercepted multiple vehicles near the campus and found the protesters. They were charged with perverting the course of justice. District Court today said the defendants were not dressed in black, showing they did not intend to join the riot. However, police had already prohibited anyone from entering or exiting the university the evening before the incident. The judge said the defendants must have entered the campus before the prohibition was announced. South Korea's government made a last appeal to junior doctors to end a walkout with hours left to go before the Thursday deadline on its threats to suspend medical licenses and prosecute the strikers. Thousands of medical interns and residents have been on strike for about 10 days to protest the government's push to boost medical school enrollments. Daniel Rao tells us more.
As of Wednesday night, about 9,076 of South Korea's 13,000 medical interns and resident doctors were confirmed to have left their hospitals after submitting resignations. Observers say many strikers are likely to defy the deadline and continue the strike. The government is expected to begin formal steps toward punishments for those who did so on Monday, as Friday is a national holiday. Starting March 4th, the government could notify doctors who missed the deadline that it plans to suspend their licenses. It will give them opportunities to respond, Senior Health Minister official Kim Chung-hwan told a briefing. Under South Korean law, the government can order doctors back to work if it sees grave risks to public health. Those who refuse to abide by such orders can have their medical licenses suspended for up to 1 year. They can also face up to 3 years in prison or 30 million won, or roughly $22,500 fine. Those who receive prison sentences would be stripped of their medical licenses. Some observers say authorities will probably punish only leaders of the strike to avoid further straining hospital operations. At the center of the dispute is a government plan to admit 2,000 more applicants to medical schools starting next year, a two-thirds increase from the current 3,058. The government says it aims to add up to 10,000 new doctors by 2035 to cope with the country's fast-aging population. However, many doctors reject the plan. They argue universities aren't ready to provide quality education to that many new students. Critics say striking junior doctors simply worry about expected lower income because of the sharply increased number of fellow doctors. Polls suggest the government's plan is broadly popular with the South Korean public. Dan Rao, TVB News.
Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is in Australia, where he spoke to the country's parliament in Canberra today. Marcos said he would not allow any foreign power to take 1 square inch of the country's territory, and that Manila was firm in defending its sovereignty. Marcos met Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Australia and the Philippines began their first joint sea and air patrols in the South China Sea in November, possibly aimed at countering China's influence. The South China Sea is a conduit for more than $3 trillion worth of shipborne commerce each year and is a major source of tension between the Philippines and China. Manila accuses Beijing of committing aggressive acts inside its exclusive economic zone. An international arbitration tribunal in The Hague said in 2016 that China's claims inside the zone had no legal basis, a decision Beijing has rejected.
Just as we fought to build our rules-based international order, so are we now fighting to protect it. The protection of the South China Sea as a vital, critical global artery is crucial to the preservation of regional peace and, I dare say, of global peace. We have an abiding interest in keeping our seas free and open.
President Xi Jinping held talks with Julius Maada Bio, the president of Sierra Leone, in Beijing on Wednesday. Xi vowed to support the West African country by urging Chinese companies to invest in the country, which is rich in minerals but is heavily in debt. Sierra Leone is among a number of African countries forging closer diplomatic and economic ties with China. Nasvi Karim has more.
Since China dismantled all COVID-19 restrictions, Beijing has enhanced diplomatic ties with several African countries, including Benin, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Gabon and Zambia. The West African country of Sierra Leone already enjoys a close relationship with China, and a visit to Beijing by a delegation led by President Julius Maada Bio represents a strengthening of those ties. President Xi Jinping pointed out that Bio is the first African head of state he has met this year and hopes the visit will lift bilateral ties to new heights. Bio echoed Xi's statement.
Sierra Leone and China share a bond that transcends geographical distance. It is my firm conviction that this bilateral engagement will further add layers to the superstructure of the China-Sierra Leone friendship.
During the meeting, China announced 50 million yuan in economic and technical assistance to Sierra Leone and 1,500 tons of food assistance. Beijing is also willing to enact 20 million yuan worth of loan cancellation. And in December, China Road and Bridge Corporation signed a deal to build an 8-kilometer bridge over the river separating the capital Freetown with the main airport, valued at $1.5 billion. According to the American Enterprise Institute, Chinese firms have invested $6.4 billion in Sierra Leone since 2010. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Still ahead. 99% of views received during the consultation for the legislation of Article 23 are supportive. White House says Joe Biden does not need cognitive tests after he passed health checkup. Long-serving U.S. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell calls it a day. Welcome back. After the consultation period for the legislation of Article 23 ended yesterday, the Security Bureau noted around 99% of views received support for the law. The Hong Kong Bar Association was among the organizations that gave a submission. The group said some definitions of offenses can be narrowed down. Timothy Lee tells us more.
The public consultation period for Article 23 legislation ended on Wednesday. The Security Bureau said around 3,000 people attended the 30 consultation sessions and involved members of the business, political, and legal sectors. The vast majority of participants supported the legislation. The government received over 13,000 suggestions, with close to 99% of them expressing support or approval of Article 23 legislation, while suggestions disapproving of the law made up less than 1%. More than 10 of these came from overseas organizations expressing anti-China sentiments or political fugitives. Authorities said they will consolidate the suggestions as soon as possible and finalize the bill. Meanwhile, the Hong Kong Bar Association submitted its position paper regarding Article 23 legislation to the government yesterday. The document made several suggestions, including the narrowing down of the definition of seditious intention in related offenses. Hong Kong Bar Association Chairman Victor Dawes also shared the bar's position on allowing individuals other than journalists accused of stealing state secrets under the law to invoke a public interest defense.
We have indicated quite early on that it is certainly worth considering. In respect of whether it should only cover journalists or everybody, since the potential that anyone can be caught by the proposed offense, we believe that the defense should not be restricted to journalists. We have also expressed the view that, of course, the threshold can't be low because at the end of the day, it can be abused.
The Bar Association said the legislation on Article 23 should not affect the SAR status as a global city, and that it should respect and safeguard human rights protected under the Basic Law. The association added a balanced coexistence of enforcement of powers and protection of rights will maintain the international community's confidence in Hong Kong. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The Commissioner's Office of Beijing's Foreign Ministry in Hong Kong criticized British politicians for attacking the SAR's human rights, freedom, and rule of law. This came after British Foreign Secretary David Cameron issued a statement commenting on Article 23 of the Basic Law. Cameron said the legislation of Article 23 will have a negative impact on the people of Hong Kong in the exercise of their rights and freedoms. In response, the Commissioner's Office of China's Foreign Ministry in Hong Kong said UK politicians hold a narrow view of China and the SAR. The office said one of the principles of the legislation is to respect and safeguard human rights. Overseas, Russian President Vladimir Putin today delivered his annual State of the Nation address to both houses of the Russian parliament. Putin, who is bidding for another 6-year term as president, said he believes it is important for Russia to strengthen ties with Arab and Latin American countries. Putin's speech was televised live nationwide. The 71-year-old leader offered updates on the war in Ukraine, Moscow's nuclear capabilities, and its relationship with the West. Putin has been vocal about U.S.-backed Israeli aggression against Palestinians in Gaza, saying Russia is better served forging alliances with Arab countries. Following an annual physical assessment, U.S. President Joe Biden continues to be fit for duty, according to his doctor. Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Biden's physician, wrote the president is adjusting well to a new device that helps control his sleep apnea. He added Biden has experienced some hip discomfort, but also works out 5 times a week. O'Connor said President Biden is a healthy, active, robust 81-year-old male who remains fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency. Biden would be 86 by the end of a second term should he win one, making him the oldest president in U.S. history. However, voters have scrutinized Biden's gaffes, his coughing, his slow walking, and even a tumble off his bicycle, leading to questions about his cognitive ability. Asked why Biden wasn't undergoing a cognitive test as part of the physical, White House spokesman Karine Jean-Pierre said his doctor and neurologist don't believe he needs one.
Because the doctor doesn't believe that he needs one, because including the neurologist doesn't believe he needs one. Look, I think folks need to understand that the president passes, again, a cognitive test every day. If you look at what a clinical cognitive test is actually, what it actually does, it is a 15-minute appointment that is administered by someone that most of the time people don't actually know. And the president has a team of doctors that is with him 24/7, and he is able to do the work every day that is rigorous, that is more rigorous than it would be for any 15-minute clinical appointment.
Joe Biden has signed an executive order barring genomic data transfers to China and Russia. In Beijing, the foreign ministry said the U.S. should stop smearing China over data security. Officials said transactions will be banned with data brokers who know the information will end up in countries of concern. Washington has been trying to stem the flow of American personal data to China, part of a years-long struggle over trade and technology. The U.S. Congress is considering legislation to ban federal agencies from contracting with China's BGI Group and Wuxi AppTech. The longest-serving Senate leader, Mitch McConnell, will step down from his position in November. The 82-year-old Republican senator announced his decision on Wednesday after almost 2 decades as Senate leader. Tracy Furness has more.
To serve Kentucky in the Senate has been the honor of my life. To lead my Republican colleagues has been the highest privilege. But one of life's most underappreciated talents is to know when it's time to move on to life's next chapter. So I stand before you today, Mr. President, and my colleagues, to say this will be my last term as Republican leader of the Senate.
McConnell will continue in the position until the Senate selects a replacement, which will take place in November.
Are we sorry to see Mitch McConnell go? Because obviously in November when he steps down, he still sounds like he's still going to be in the Senate. He's just stepping down his leadership. So I want to make that clear as well. And the president said he's sorry to see that happen.
McConnell has been under increasing pressure from the hostile wing of his party that has aligned with Donald Trump. The two have been estranged since December 2020. The Kentucky senator's resignation comes at a time when the Republican Party has faced powerful ideological transitions. From Ronald Reagan's traditional conservatism with strong international alliances to the isolationist populism of former President Donald Trump. Aides say McConnell's announcement is unrelated to his health. The senator had a concussion from a fall last year and had 2 public episodes where his face briefly froze while he was speaking. He will continue on as Kentucky senator until 2027. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.